Welcome to part 8 of our online course on the Juche idea. In the previous session, we heard about establishing Juche in ideology and independence in politics. These are the two of the guiding principles of the Juche idea, basically the nuts and bolts of applying Juche in practice. Economic self-sufficiency is the guiding principle to implement independence in the economic field. To implement independence in the economic field is an important issue to consolidate the independence of a country and ensure Juche in ideology, independence in politics, self-reliance in defence, and provide people with an independent and creative life materially. It's basically the building blocks of everything. What then does it mean to be self-sufficient in the economy? The great leader, Comrade Kim Jong-il, said, in order to implement the principle of economic self-sufficiency, one must build an independent national economy. Building an independent national economy means building an economy which is free from dependence on others and which stands on its own feet, an economy which serves one's own people and develops on the strength of the resources of one's own country and by the efforts of one's own people. In other words, this means to build an independent national economy. End of quotation. The building of an independent national economy has two contents. One is to build the economy that serves the people. The other is to build the economy that depends on its own resources of the country and the strength of the people. It is one of the essential contents of building an independent national economy to build an economy that serves the people. To build an economy that serves the people means to build an economy that can satisfy diverse and ever-increasing material needs with one's own production. Such an economy is multi-sided and comprehensive in its structure. When the economic structure becomes multi-sided and comprehensive, one can satisfy diverse and ever-increasing material needs with one's own production. So the economy that serves the people in the country should be multi-sided and comprehensive in structure. Independent economy should be based on the latest science and technology that is necessary to satisfy ever-increasing material needs on one's own efforts and to liberate the people from arduous labor. The latest science and technology means a high level of scientific and technological basis of the economic activities and makes it possible to rapidly grow production by enhancing productive efficiency and thus makes the national economy serve the people's independent and creative life. It is the other essential content of building an independent national economy, to build the economy that develops depending on the resources of the country and the strength of the people. The direct agent of building the economy is the people, and their country has raw materials and fuels to build and develop the economy that serves the people. Of course, one can use foreign strength and resources in building the economy, but it is impossible to build the economy according to one's own will and desire when depending on foreign raw materials and fuel. Dependency on others means the deprivation of one's economy, which is subjugated. This can be understood by the fact that many developing countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America that have managed their economy depending on foreign capital received millions of dollars of emergency relief funds from the IMF and World Bank after the destructive financial crisis, and thus had to suffer under the submissive mandate imposed on this adjustment of structure, losing economic self-sufficiency. The economy that depends on the resources of the country and the strength of the people is the economy that develops depending on one's raw materials, technique, and national technical personnel. One's own resources, technique, and national technical personnel are inevitable factors for building an independent national economy. Only depending on these factors is it possible to build a self-sufficient economy. The building of an independent national economy has the essential contents of building the economy that serves the people and develops on its own resources and strength of its own people. This makes it possible to achieve economic self-sufficiency. Why then is it necessary to be self-sufficient in the economy? That is because the economy is the material basis of social life. In other words, this means that social life cannot have material guarantee apart from the economy. In social life, there are political and cultural life, but these lives cannot exist apart from material conditions. Man can only lead political life only when he eats and gets dressed, and for this end, he should have different material needs. So in the case of cultural life, it is impossible to lead cultural life such as education, art, literature, sports, and public health apart from the material means. In this sense, the economy is called the material basis of social life. This being the case, only when one is independent in the economy is it possible to ensure independence of the people in all fields of social life. When one is independent in the economy, one can consolidate the independence of a country and lead an independent life. Economic self-sufficiency is one of the important criteria of an independent sovereign state. Although one is independent in politics, it becomes meaningless if one is dependent in the economy. In other words, the country is an independent country in name, but not in actuality. Apart from the economy, social life is inconceivable. How can a country that is independent on the economy be called an independent sovereign state? A country that depends on others in the economy will follow others and cannot be free from subordination as slaves in debt. In the past, many countries were deprived of their countries and had to live colonial slaves' lives. Today, many countries gained political independence but cannot be politically completely free from the domination and subjugation of the imperialists. This is because countries were dependent and backward economically. If a country is not independent economically, that country begs to others, eventually being subjugated economically and bringing no meaning to political independence. Economic self-sufficiency is necessary to live on one's own efforts. The Korean proverb goes as follows: the money in the father's pocket is no better than one's own money. It is more so in relations among countries. As long as there is the countries and borders, economic life is made with a country as a unit. So each country should manage its economy on its own efforts. Dependency on others is a wrong idea. Begging to others is shameful. It is therefore important to be self-sufficient in the economy, to live on one's own efforts. When one is independent in the economy to produce what one needs mainly on one's own, one can lead a dignified life. Only in this process can one import what one needs through foreign trade. One can buy certain things, not all things. If one buys all things, one will spend a lot of money and consume a lot of time. For example, in the DPRK in the 1950s, they didn't want the country, some of the factionalists didn't want the country to produce tractors. The factionalists claimed that a small country doesn't need to produce them because it can buy them from other countries. But President Kim Il-sung pointed out that if the DPRK buys 3,500 tractors annually, it would take more than 10 years to buy 35,000 tractors, and stressed that Korea should produce them on their own, although it costs a lot of money. So Korea produced the first one as a sample and went ahead and further produced many factories. What would be the result if the DPRK had bought them from abroad instead of building a tractor factory? Then it would have begged those countries even today, and it would have failed to mechanize the rural economy. This tells us that economic self-sufficiency leads dignified and independent life. Economic self-sufficiency is the inevitable condition for ensuring Juche in ideology, independence in politics, and self-reliance in defense. Economic self-sufficiency is the material conditions to ensure the principle of Juche in ideology. To establish Juche in ideology means to arm the people with independent ideological consciousness. If one is dependent on the economy being subordinated, one will have bad ideas such as flunkism and dogmatism, which goes against independent ideology. What is the reason then? This is because one is dependent on others economically. If one is weaker than others and dependent on others, one will look upon others. When one is self-sufficient in the economy, one can manage the economy by, on one's own, enhance national pride and self-respect and establish Juche in ideology. Economic self-sufficiency makes it possible to maintain independence in politics. If one is economically dependent, one is not free in the political field. In this case, one should follow the instructions of others. When each country is independent in economy, it can refute others' interference and pressure and ensure independent politics. Economic self-sufficiency also makes it possible to keep the principle self-reliance in defense. If one is dependent on others in the economy, one cannot build a powerful military industry, so it is impossible to equip the army with modern weapons, nor arm the people militarily, nor make the whole country a fortress. If a country has no military industry, it would have to import huge amounts of military equipment from other countries, but it would be difficult. And also, I would add here that, some big countries might want to supply weapons one day, and another day they might change their minds, or they might demand high prices for them. In order to adhere to the principle of self-reliance and defense, it is necessary to provide weapons and combat equipment on one's own. And for this end, it is important to build a powerful self-sufficient economy. Like this, economic self-sufficiency is an inevitable requirement for realizing people's independence in all fields of social life. This concludes my talk, and the questions for next time, which I hope people will study and provide answers to next time, is question 1, why is self-sufficiency in the economy vital? Question 2, how does self-sufficiency in the economy underpin Juche? Question 3, is Juche the same as autarky? Question 4, controversial one, do you believe Britain should be self-sufficient? So that's the questions. I just stopped the